Welcome to Behind the Cardboard. This is a podcast where we talk to hobby store owners and operators about how their businesses actually run, how they got to where they are today, and what kinds of things they are doing well, succeeding at, or struggling with, and just trying to figure out all the different aspects for running a really successful hobby store. Today, I'm joined by Steve at E4 Games. That's the name of it, right? I didn't get that wrong.
E4 cards and more.
E4 cards and more. So, Steve, can you just tell me a little bit about E4?
Yeah, we're a smaller LGS. We're located up in the mountains in beautiful Bend, Oregon. We are a community and play first game store. We focus primarily in trading card games. Every now and again, we'll end up with a random board game in because a distributor gives us a deal on them or we have to buy them to get some other product. But almost all TCGs, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Riftbound, Yu-Gi-Oh, Lorcana, so on and so forth. We run events every single day of the week that we're open. Very focused on the community space and having everybody in and playing. Our logo has come out, or our slogan has come out and play. So we really focus on being a more of a community center with a cool little retail that kind of allows us to pay the rent and the employees.
Cool. Yeah. So if you guys watching or listening to this don't know me, I'm Chase. I run TCG Bulk Kings, which is an online only trading card reseller of all different kinds of trading cards. And I've worked in a bunch of retail stores in the past as inventory management and stuff, but not retail hobby stores. So like car parts and books and things like that. So I'm really interested in learning a lot about the different aspects of running a brick and mortar game store or hobby store, how it differs from my online presence. So you're a community and play first, you say. Does that mean you that would be primary to selling online, I would presume?
Yeah. I mean, we do some work on Card Trader. We do have an online website, but I would say probably 70 to 80% of our online orders are local pickup for our local customers. We have a local pickup option on there. So if you're up at 2 a.m. playing a Commander game with your buddies and go, oh my God, I have to put this card in my deck, you can come online and order it. And when we open the next day, it'll be ready for you to pick up. So yeah, that is definitely our focus. We have a ton of singles display space in the store. We try to keep as much of a selection of sealed products as the manufacturers and distribution channels will allow us to.
Right. And we do it there, but I've never navigated really as distribution like that. So
yeah, it's a very interesting part. We do mentorship with a couple other stores in the area that are starting out and kind of helping them going, and that's always the first question is, how do I get more product? And it's like, well, fun story. You gotta fill in the gaps with other stuff. Because when Pokemon only prints X boxes, that's all that exists. You just can't get more. We do. Card Trader does a decent amount of volume for us on singles. It helps kind of cull the back stock so that we can buy more stuff.
Right. Okay. That's cool. I've used Card Trader some with mixed success. I was on them when they first launched in the US, and I had the whole I was one of those TCG player accounts that TCG Player shut down because of the sync option that they had with Card Trader had with TCG Player that TCG Player decided was too much automated bot activity on their websites, even though that's not even what was going on. Yeah, so I backed off a Card Trader at that time for a while, and now I put kind of like my excess there. Like once I fill out extra or enough to fill out my website and enough to hit the level that I want to sell on TCG Player or keep stocked on TCG Player, I'll put the extra over to Card Trader. But you sell mostly through Card Trader online, outside of your own website, right?
Yeah, that's our only third-party channel right now. We just because of labor cost, Bend is an incredibly expensive place to live. So our labor is much higher than a lot of other places in the country. The local Taco Bell down the road starts at $21 an hour, so we've got to we gotta really get up there with the hourly rates. So we try to reduce labor in the shipping as much as we can. Card Trader lets us do Card Trader Zero, which is
Right.
kind of a similar concept to TCG Player Direct, where we're sending one shipment out a week and we've just got to kind of cull the cards out of the case as they sell throughout the week rather than shipping out individual envelopes all the time.
Right.
We've looked at Mana Pool, but again, with the labor going back to the individual envelopes, we're not quite sure how the maths on that. It would essentially at this point we'd have to sell enough on there to justify another body, another staff member,
Right.
which is
You'd have to be, he'd have to sell enough on there to grow to that point, and then how do you get there, right? It's
Right.
an egg kind of thing.
Yep, 100%. We're completely out of the TCG player ecosystem.
Okay.
We started there when we opened the store. We started with Binder. We started selling on TCG Player and having Binder sync to our Shopify and using Binder POS and all of that. And we just, the trials and tribulations of TCG Player through the acquisitions and everything in the last few years, we made the decision at the end of 23 to just cut ties and pull the plug on that and move on with some of our own solutions.
Yeah. What did you find difficult about TCG Player's tools that made you, other than visual order shipping?
So when we started off with Binder. We bought a Roka sorter, everything in one ecosystem, and it all just worked. And then it started to get to the point where the ecosystems had kind of split. We ended up in one conversation where we were getting our Roka sheets out of our Roka, and they were exporting in a format that we had to go and manipulate before we could push them into Binder.
Right.
And it's like, hey, you guys are all under the same corporate umbrella. Can this thing just spit out a sheet that we can just drag and drop into Binder? Because that would make life much simpler. And a couple months of back and forth with different supports here and there, and it didn't work. And it was the end of
Try options that then didn't work for you, or did they just not ever actually end up getting something to you that
No, we never actually ended up, putting the pieces in place to make that functional. Our inflows and outflows are very important. In previous careers before I got into the cardboard game, I was logistics and production, right? And so we have a system where, hey, here's the orders that came in from the customers. So here's what needs to get manufactured today. So here's what needs to get ordered tomorrow, and everything just kind of automates and flows because paying someone to copy paste between spreadsheets is stupid in the age of technology that we have.
Even if it only takes 10 seconds, if you do it, 100 times a day or however many times a day, that it all adds up, just like
Correct.
from the cards, right? So
Correct.
I was actually
from
sorry, go ahead.
from an operations point of view too, those little 10-second things are things that have to be caught up on, right? Because they're little 10-second things, you can't have somebody go, hey, clock in and just sit here and do this, because it's 30 minutes between Roka runs, and maybe there's buy list coming in to move or something, but then maybe there's an hour that goes by where there's nothing coming in that needs to be copy pasted in 10 seconds. So now you have to have that employee doing something else. Well, now whatever the something else is, it has to be something that they can step away from when a new order comes in, and it just makes the time efficiency very, very
The task
terrible.
switching is difficult too, I imagine too, right? So I was
Correct.
actually going to ask about your background. How did Steve at E4 Cards and More become Steve at E4 Cards and More?
So I spent a lot of time, 2008, I entered the industry I was in prior to this. I graduated in the very early 2000s. I'm going to age myself here with a master's degree in computer science. Shortly after that, yeah, it's been the most expensive piece of wall art I've ever had. I graduated right after.
No. I'm going to push back on that because everything, I have a degree in philosophy. So
Okay.
if I can argue that that what I studied and that diploma from me, or that degree for me, gets applied daily to my stuff, you absolutely can with a computer science background, right?
No, 100%. I use it every day in my daily life. But when I graduated college, I graduated about 6 months after the tech bubble burst at the turn of the millennium.
Sure.
So jobs were few and far between, and I landed in a cubicle and decided that 3 years in a cubicle was not for me. And So I started my own business and moved into a different industry and spent about 15 years there. I'm in a very emerging industry, just working on production and logistics and product sourcing and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Which turned into some retail stores and gained some experience there going, hey, here's how it makes sense to lay out a retail store. When somebody walks in the door, what do you want them to walk past first? In our store, when you come in the front gate from the mall of our store, there's a sales counter on the left and a sales counter on the right, and the display cases and all the product, and you walk through that and then you get to the play space. So everybody that comes in to sit down at a table and play is walking through that and seeing all the new stuff that we have, right? Little things like that we picked up along the way. With COVID, we stepped away from that industry and had an opportunity to sell the company that we had built, and we're kind of in that in between of, okay, well, what's next? I had just turned 40, so I wasn't ready to stop working yet. And
Right.
given the state of COVID and the inflation, I went, yeah, there's no way this is going to function. So we decided to. My daughter through COVID had picked up Pokemon. I played Magic many moons ago. I played through, you know, beta into about Urza's Saga. So when my kiddo started getting back into Pokemon, we started, picking up boxes and opening packs. And of course, everybody knows what Pokemon did during COVID. The line went zoom.
Uh-huh.
And
Every podcast I've heard where someone's speaking with a store owner or something post COVID talks about how they got back into it because of COVID, or their partner was into Pokemon as a kid and they got them into it during COVID, or their kids got into it during COVID. It's just so funny how common that experience is. So
yeah. I mean, it was a very weird couple years in society, right? And people were finding lots of things to do to fill their time. So my daughter and I went through and we decided, well, we're going to build master sets. And this was around, I think Rebel Clash was the first set that we picked up.
yeah,
We're like, okay, cool. We can get buyers. We can master set this. We'll build decks and stuff, but we want to have these cool collection pieces. Well, anybody who's ever built a master set of Pokemon knows you end up with loads and loads and loads and loads of other cards that you don't need.
yep,
And so I did some interneting and we found TCG Player and opened a TCG Player account and just started selling them. Fast forward a year, it's the point where my darling, most patient woman in the world wife looks at me and goes, hey, we haven't been able to park a car in the garage for 6 months because it's full of Pokemon cards. This is bringing income in. Have you ever thought about like moving out of the house? And so we went out looking for warehouse space. And in the market that we are in, warehouse space is and single digit percentages less expensive than retail space.
oh really? Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. And we're tucked away in the corner of a mall. We're a destination. We don't get foot traffic. People come here because they're looking for trading card games. But yeah, we ended up picking up the retail space and bought 2 8-top tables and 2 display counters and went, I don't know, let's see what happens. At least there's this back area where we can work and continue the online business.
Right.
And now it's kind of exploded past that. There was a pretty solid demand here locally for a clean, safe, welcoming, brightly lit play space for people to come and hang out.
Right.
And
So yeah, especially after COVID was such a tough time for everyone, those third spaces, a lot of them disappeared.
Bend is a very interesting economy too, where there's a very giant wealth gap here.
Okay.
We have
know almost nothing about that part of the country. So like I have friends in Seattle. That's about as close as I even know anybody to there. Right.
so there's a very big wealth gap here. So there's a ton of third spaces, but they're expensive third spaces.
Oh,
There's a you can go to the trampoline park and you can jump, but if you've got four kids and it's $30 an hour to have the kids jump at the trampoline park, how much of your day are you hanging out there? So we've always been a free to play space. We don't charge for anybody to sit down. We charge tournament entries when there's prizing, but like outside of that, our space is always open and free for anybody to come in and hang out and just be a part of the community. So that's really resonated well for us, and we are. We see 48 right now, and I would say most evenings between like 4 and 9, we are 80% plus full every night of the week.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. You've been able to build the kind of community like that keeps showing up, right?
Yeah.
So it's a whole different feel from trying to sell cards online because it's so anonymous and it's really hard to drive brand that way without those interpersonal one-on-one connections that you have like in the matches, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot harder to build those repeat customers. It's only so much you can get out of throwing a flyer in an envelope, or making sure
Right.
that you've got your branding in the packaging somewhere, or throwing coupons in to get them to come back. You don't have to use coupons, right? You have interactions with them that make them want to come back. So
Correct. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. It's the relationship building side of it is much simpler. You know, when they go online, everybody goes online and pulls their card up and sorts by cheapest and goes, cool, that one.
right,
And that's kind of the extent of the interaction. So we have the ability to, and our staff has been great. Somebody comes in and they go, hey, I'm building this deck and I'm looking for a couple cards to go in it, and our staff has the ability to take the time and have that conversation and kind of guide them in the correct direction. Um, and that, I think that's very, very important, especially in such a community based hobby.
right,
You know,
for sure.
nobody really sits and plays Pokemon or Magic by themselves, right? You have somebody else to play with,
Right.
so it's inherently a social thing, and we lean into that in the retail to help build that as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that. So you had that retail experience that's helped you like design the retail, um, the experience of a customer walking into the store, and all that. You found that that's helped move sales of some of those. Like, is there like a big discoverability factor that drives sales? You feel like in your space?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that's one of the big advantages that we have online. I have 32 feet of glass display case that holds singles, right? And we always kind of make the joke, hey, card player see shiny, card player buy shiny. But there's some truth to it. Somebody will come in and they maybe they're a Boros player in Magic. Cool. Well, here's the red cards, here's the white cards, and they can peruse and kind of see, and maybe they find something that they didn't know existed. We see that a ton in Magic, where eternal formats are kind of the leading formats, and the card pool is so deep. Maybe there's a card there that you've never heard of. I mean, we get cards in as many cards as I've seen. We get some cards in inventory, and I go, "Holy crap! When was that? What set was that from? That's a cool card. I've never seen it before."
Yeah, like, and there's so many, popper playable cards that I never heard of out there, right? Um, and then everybody's brewing up completely random weird things in Commander and stuff, so it's always something different going on there. Even though there's the CEDH type things where that's kind of standardized to an extent, but that's not how most people participate in it. So it's always something
Yeah,
to build on.
there's definitely a formed meta with the CEDH, but in Commander it doesn't even have to be a good card. Maybe it's just a card on theme.
Right.
Somebody's building a cats and dogs deck, and here's some cat card from 20 years ago that is trash and nobody ever played because it's 4 mana for a 2/2.
Panther
But it's
Warriors
cat.
from Portal, right? Six three
Yeah.
five or something like that.
No, nobody's playing that in anything that they're trying to win with. But if you got a cat deck and it's cat,
Right.
you're off to the races. So yeah, I think the discoverability on that is huge. We also work really hard too. We've put multiple 10-figure sums into our website and our search and our getting all of that tuned and all of
Oh yeah.
the discoverability there as well. The with our back end solutions that manage our singles inventory for us, getting things tagged as they go in, so we can sort by, show me all the planeswalkers, or show me all the fire type Pokemon, or show me all the EX Pokemon, that kind of thing.
How do you manage all that if you're not using, like, I know Binder Pause wasn't great for it, but it existed, right? So let me
So when we left Binder, we bounced through a couple of different systems, and we've landed now with a company called Sort Swift. That has been great for us. It's got its challenges like everything else. They're a newer company, so they're still developing and still growing, and things are always, it's another one of those where every day in the Discord there's new features announced and new bug fixes announced and stuff like that.
a lot of my tools
But
are the same way.
yeah, this isn't an industry where standardized tools are just built out, right? They're all independent tools. Most of the guys writing them are just cardboard geeks like us that see a need and try to fill it.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
and and as we've seen with TCG, when the corporation gets giant and takes over, that's kind of when everything starts to go to hell. Uh, so we've been
So good, leading in the right direction, even just a few years ago. It seems like it's just
yeah
like I
yeah
I went to Gamma. I was at the seller presentation they had there, and I'm not gonna like badmouth TCG player, in public on or whatever, real loud or anything like that. Like I use TCG player. I sell through them every day. Uh, but like there was a lot of excitement from the leadership at TCG Player about announcing all their new directions, not just the sifter that they've announced, but all the other things, the tools, the other advancements they got coming, and all of it was so vague and not detailed, and like we've got
Right.
warehouse management strategy, and I'm like, is what is it? Well, we're not going to say anything about it.
It's
Okay.
a really cool buzzword you've got there. Are there any details
Just
behind it?
they're not saying anything. So, just it was a lot of vague things that was really hard to actually see what's actually coming. It makes me have a harder time, like, making decisions or planning for using those kinds of things or waiting it out to see if that's going to work because I need to work now, right? So,
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's we as a brick and mortar and the same thing in the situation you're in, you need efficiency. Repeating processes 2 or 3 times. If you've got a stack of cards and you've got to go through and sort it 3 times to get it to the point where it's usable, that's too many, right?
right. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. That's
so
something
we
I
really had a
really been working on the last year and kind of settled on a current process that helps with that a lot, but trying to make it work for everybody as much as possible.
Yeah. And they're always evolving and everybody, every business has unique needs, right? I think that's one of the
Yeah.
big challenges in the marketplace as well. I don't care about TCG Player Sync. I don't super care about Mana Pool Sync. Our current software will allow us to Mana Pool Sync, but it's not something that we're using right now. So it's not something that I put a ton of brain effort into. We are focused on inventory being accurate, syncing between it. Our buy list is huge. We are in our geographical area. We're the only one that will just buy all your cards unconditionally. Like,
Oh,
show
really?
me the box. Yes, we'll take them all. I don't care.
Right.
Um, you know, every now and again we'll have to, we'll get a Pokemon card in that got folded in half in somebody's pocket and put through the washing machine, and it's like, yeah, man, we're gonna hand that back to you because there really isn't any value to that. But outside of that, yeah, we'll buy every card has some sort of value to it.
I've heard
Yeah,
that
sometimes
somewhere.
I know, right? There's that guy on YouTube that says that. But yeah, even if it's a half cent because it's a card that we can put in the Pokemon vending machine that some kid can come in and put a quarter in and grab and feel happy,
Exactly. Yeah.
there's a use for it somewhere. So our buy list is a huge part of our business.
Do you have individual
Switches
buy prices for like a huge number of cards, or is it just like?
are all over the cards.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah,
Not
so
purchasing in bulk quantities, like at a bulk rate, but
So we do both. What we do is we cut off because of our labor costs. Any card under $3 is not viable for us to work through our system, right? If it's a $2 card and we're buying it for $1, by the time we pay the individual the dollar, get a catalog, get it into inventory, get it displayed, get it put away wherever it's going, we've spent $1 in labor doing that. So there just isn't a value. So anything under $3, we just buy at a bulk rate, and we have a flat bulk rate for all games, all cards. Don't care. Anything under $3, we buy at this rate. Over $3, we follow TCG player pricing. We have our software that we use has access to that API and updates once a day. And then we just have a math algorithm we put on it after that. What percentage that we're buying at. We look at how many do we have in stock. If I have 16 of these things in stock, I'm probably gonna want to pay about half what I would normally pay for it.
of course,
Because I've got a pile of them already. So we look.
have any means to take into account how the sales velocity of those cards, like how quickly they sell? Like if you have 16, it may not matter if you sell 10 a day, right?
Right. We don't have that currently. What we do have is we do have the ability to do it based on aging. If I have 2 of these and they've been in inventory for 6 months and nobody's cared for 6 months, I'm now nowhere near as motivated as if we have 2 of these, but they're only a week old in inventory. So that's the tool we utilize for a lot of that. inventory velocity would be phenomenal, and I think it's something that Mike has got on the roadmap over at Sword Swift.
Yeah.
But again, they're fairly new, fairly small
Definitely
team.
missing, I feel like, from a lot of reselling spaces, even like eBay. There's a whole lot of eBay seller content out there, and like one of the ways that they recommend if you're like shopping at a thrift store or something to decide whether or not you're going to buy something is to see how many are listed and how many have sold in the last 90 days to get
Yep.
kind of a rough sales velocity up from the whole market. And then TCG Player, I don't know, about a year ago, put that similar type of information on each card page, but it's not in
Yep.
the API. So
Correct.
it's not really useful outside of individually looking up each card to check that, which is not really super useful for like your, grizzly bears and your Weedles, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
even though
We
the
just
$3 or $5 cards, it's just too much time to check that, right?
we just recently brought in a very high end buy list. It was a longtime customer and friend of ours, who is, I mean, a ton of old reserve list stuff. Like there was a place that a guy's cradles in there. There was a place that a LEDs in there. There was, this was a $45,000 or $50,000 buy for us, on a one row box of cards. So it was a ton of good stuff in there. And we've actually gone through and manually priced it because TCG Player's pricing data on cards like that is so unreliable.
Because it's
You know.
slow, right? And so
Right.
much of it is because at that point it's a lot more about collectability necessarily than playability. Like they're expensive because they're playable, obviously, but
Right.
at that point where people are dropping $1,000 on a card, right? It matters whether it has one nick or two nicks.
Correct. And when you get into some of them, when it's, there's playability and there's collectability, right? And sometimes both are high, but sometimes one is low and one is high. And we find that when the playability is what's driving the price, the conditioning matters much less.
Right.
If somebody's going to buy a guy's cradle to put it in the deck, yeah, they'd rather buy the one that's $100 cheaper and mod played than one that's $100 more and light played.
Of course.
Every day of the week. But and then that's where we see those gaps closing. That's honestly been our biggest struggle. Is TCG Player API provides a near mint market price. Well,
Right.
near mint market price on Gaia's Cradle is probably almost irrelevant because I would say that 95% of them are light played or less. As a matter of fact, there's a big market for those on heavy played ones. My personal decks, I have a full collection of the duels, but all of my duels are beat. Like they are asphalt played, because I'm putting them in a sleeve and putting them on a table and turning them sideways. I don't care. It's not a collectible value to me. It's a playable value.
Exactly.
So that's where we struggle a lot with, like on a guy's cradle, for example, the difference between a damaged one and a near mint one right now is single digit percentages because it's a playable card and nobody really cares. I think, let's see, the cheapest damage right now is 1130 something. And what do we have for, I guess I'll look at light play.
Facebook posts about Guy's Cradle the other day. Someone was trying to sell a heavy played one on Facebook for the low price, 1150 or whatever. And everyone was roasting him in the comments. Like, these go for 600, 700, 800, not 1100. And I'm like, but
Where?
just trying to sell it at TCG low, right? That's
Yep.
I get it, but also like,
and they're selling at that, right? That's the other thing that the API doesn't take into account is, are they selling at the prices that they're listed at? We get a customer that will come in and pull
it tries to grab that sales data, but it's really, it could be a
not great at it.
Like,
yeah. We'll have a customer that'll come in and will pull the card up and will pull up the what we call the box, right? That featured listing right at the top on TCG Player. And if there's a direct listing for it, it's almost always the direct listing, which of course we all know price is higher. And if it's not, then they're going to take, I don't know what their algorithm is for it, but it always seems to be one of the most expensive listings that it can find,
Right.
And somebody will be like, oh, that's what the card's worth. And it's like, that's not really how that works.
Yeah.
Or they pull up an eBay listing. Like, look, man, here's one listed for $3,000. Yeah, that's really cool. Let's look at solds. Oh, the solds are $800-900. So it's very difficult. And a lot of our high end stuff, we tell people on our buy, even right on our buy list page, hey, if your card's over $200, this is a guideline, but like we're going to take a look at it and condition it and look at market conditions and things like that. So that's probably one of our bigger challenges, is just handling the inflow and the outflow. Like I said, we're one of the only ones in the area here that buys cards unconditionally. And we probably, I think last month we bought 23 or 24,000 cards from customers, and probably put out right around that same number. So just managing all of that in and out.
That's a lot. Widgets have around, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel like how do I phrase this? I'm interested in what kind of similarities you see from managing inventory for just a online only store versus managing inventory for a hybrid primary in-store customer base with online also available.
I don't think there's a ton of difference. The biggest hiccup that we run into is, we have a crew that comes in the morning and pulls all the online orders, right? So sometimes at 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, we'll have a customer look at a card in a case and go, oh, I want to buy that. And the person behind the counter will grab it and pull it up, and it's out of stock, right? Because at noon it sold online. I think that's really only the glaring, that's probably the only standout challenge that we see. Everything else is, if you're online only, but you're synced over multiple marketplaces, you're seeing the same challenges.
Yeah, because nothing's gonna sync it instantaneously. So
correct.
Yeah,
correct.
I messed around with that in 3 or 4 different ways in the past. Old school card trader to TCG player. I've had my eBay store linked to my website in the past. I've had my eBay linked to Collex, a different marketplace that focuses more on sports cards.
Okay. Yep.
Because the listing tool I have for it was made by them, right? So they built in an integration that would link it all together. But I've always struggled with that. Like the syncing either doesn't work right, so the inventory doesn't get changed, or it doesn't work fast enough, so something sells in one place and then tries to sell in another place, and it just creates bad feelings. So currently all my inventory on each marketplace is distinct from each other. Like as far as the listings, like it's all on the shelf because it's all together, because it's all encoded in my system, my inventory system.
Right.
But
your inventory system knows where it's listed.
Right, but each card represents a card on a one marketplace, not in multiple places. So
yeah, if you have one mountain, that mountain is on eBay right now, or it's on your website right now, or it's Yeah, we had discussions about doing that. What we look at, so Card Trader is really the only thing that we sync with, right? Everything else is like our online store versus in store. And it's very easy to grab a card out of the case in store and go, oh, hey, yeah, it looks like that actually sold online. It hasn't been pulled yet because we pull orders in the morning. Let's find you something else. That's a very easy conversation to have. The Card Trader integration, we do get double sales, right? And we've got to refund somebody, and there's bad feels. But we look at the cost of that and the monthly revenue that Card Trader adds on for us outweighs the cost of doing some customer service feel goods when those double sales happen.
Right.
Like we'll have a lot of times, maybe somebody bought a foil card, and the foil card actually sold on Card Trader, and so we can't give that customer the foil card. We'll offer them a non-foil version and 50% back in store credit or something, right? We'll make some financial concessions there to keep the customer satisfied. And we've done the math, and the cost of doing that is, probably 10% of what we bring in on Card Trader every month.
Okay.
So for us, it's been worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But again, every business is different, and it, until you sit down and do that math on your own business, you don't know.
That's something I see a lot, is people looking for the answer, right? Or offering the answer that they have that must, because they've come up with it and it works for them, it must apply to everybody on earth.
Looking at the platform, saying there's never going to be a perfect answer, right? Because the internet doesn't run at instant speed. On a good day, we had the situation where AWS was having those issues here a couple months back. I think we double sold $4,000 or $5,000 in cards while AWS was down before we figured out that, and then that sucks, right? You take a hit and you move on, and we have good relationships with card traders, so we worked with them, with our rep there a little bit, and of course our local customers, we did some smoothing over there and we got through it. But I don't believe there's ever going to be a perfect solution.
Yeah.
Just because when you're syncing like that, oh, look, we can sync every 5 minutes. Okay, cool. Well, if I'm selling 1,000 cards a day,
Right.
the odds of double selling in 5 minutes is pretty high.
Yeah, it's got to be like 1 or 2%, right? Which means it's going to
Yep.
happen every day, at least once.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
So,
and it feels bad, but again, if that once or twice every day, if the cost of dealing with that in labor and in customer service and in lost time is outweighed by the profit or the revenue brought in from having that sync, then the math works and you do it and you go, okay, this sucks, but you smile, nod, and you move on. And our local customer base has kind of learned to, our regulars have learned that, like, oh, hey, yeah, it happens. I mean, I've bought orders from Card Kingdom. They're huge. And I get the order and they're like, oh, we didn't have this one. We refunded it. It was an inventory error. Like, you're never going to achieve 100% perfection.
and that happens even if you don't have syncs, right? So like your people are not perfect, and systems made by people are not perfect. So no software is going to be perfect. So it happens.
In an industry where, when you look at singles, we have literally hundreds of thousands of SKUs across games. People are going to grab the wrong one. Oh, look, this was a promo foil, not a foil. Okay, it's supposed to have the little planeswalker symbol on it. Well, the card number is the same. The card looks the same outside of that little stamp. Every now and again, an employee is going to grab the wrong one, and it's not that there's a bad employee. It's that this is the levels of complexity that we deal with.
Mm-hmm. I had one, a Yu-Gi-Oh! Ultra rare that's supposed to have the gold lettering, and I sold it was listed as the ultra rare with the gold lettering, but the one that I actually had the red foil lettering, which I'm not even sure what rarity that technically is, because I don't know Yu-Gi-Oh! For beans.
We had struggled with Yu-Gi-Oh! For so long. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is such they're different rarities and levels of printing and stuff are so complex and so similar on some of that stuff. We actually had a local customer that came in who had been selling on TCG Player, and we went, hey man, when we buy Yu-Gi-Oh! Singles, we're just going to sell them to you.
Oh yeah.
Like we pulled out, we make a 5 or 6% cut when we buy cards and sell them to them. And outside of that, we don't deal with Yu-Gi-Oh! Because the knowledge level required and the time involved in identifying some of those cards was so high versus the volumes that we were doing of a smaller game
that's any good at Yu-Gi-Oh! Yet, even the ones that claim to be really good at it, right? So, like, I remember this was a few years ago. I remember when I first got some Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. I think I spent 2 hours gaslighting myself into thinking that I was insane or that TCG Player was broken. And also every other website was broken because I couldn't find this card that was in my hand. And the card was Shredder. And eventually I figured out that it's Shredder with 3 Ds. It's SHREDDDER. And I'm typing it with 2 Ds, and that's coming up with nothing, obviously.
It just doesn't exist.
Right. So, like, that kind of stuff, it throws me every time. Every time I mess with Yu-Gi-Oh, something like that happens. That's just the one that really stuck me going.
Yeah, we do Yu-Gi-Oh! Sealed product. We run Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments twice a week. We have a great player base. We just don't do singles. We the guy that we work with locally, we let him come in and hang out and make deals he wants to here. We don't care. It's not
right.
The little bit of revenue we're losing is not worth. We would essentially, at the volumes that we do, have to hire a dedicated Yu-Gi-Oh! Person.
Right.
And that, that $50,000 a year salary just isn't, we're never going to make that selling Yu-Gi-Oh! In our market. I know some people definitely do, but for us, it's small enough that it's not that big of a deal.
I had a couple
lessons learned.
Yeah. A couple other retail specific questions, I guess. I assume since you're retail, you have some type of point of sale system.
We do. We're currently using Shopify.
I'm sorry.
We're currently using Shopify as our POS.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, so Sort Swift, seeing that's another layer of complexity that we've struggled with. So Sort Swift,
Okay.
Sort Swift is our point of truth. All of our incoming inventory goes into Sort Swift, whether that's a Roka scan or the buy list tool is provided by them, so it integrates directly in. However, that inventory comes in, as far as singles, goes directly into Sort Swift, and then Sort Swift will synchronize with CardTrader and Shopify for us. And when it syncs with Shopify, that's our website and our POS.
Right. Does that track your
but-
internal inventory through Shopify, or
all of the
that
singles
store
inventory is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Outside of singles, yeah, we do everything through Shopify. We have our our sleeves and our binders and our sealed product and all of that. Online, we only sell singles. We don't sell sealed product. The volumes you would have to hit to make the tiny margin you make on sealed product worthwhile selling online just isn't. We'll never be that big. We're in a town of 100,000 people.
Right.
We're never going to build that kind of volume.
You have to be a
if we
big online seller or something that like Pokey or something like that, who's specialized specifically in that, and not the overhead of all that.
Yeah. And sealed is a dice roll too. We at the end of last year, I think we blew out a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh at half of distro cost, just to get it off the books before the end of the year, right? Because these are last year, and last year was particularly rough for Yu-Gi-Oh. It happens in all the games, but it was a stunning example because we had Yu-Gi-Oh boxes that we're paying between $55 and $60 for at distro that are MSRP at a $90 box, and they're on TCG Player for $30.
Yeah, that's tough.
And it's like, so stepping every time we talk about increasing that volume to get to the point where we could do online and make it viable, I look at stuff like that and I go, man, if I'd had 10 times that much, we ate $6,000 or $7,000 in the shorts getting that out of here. If we were at 10x that, how much more is that going to hurt?
Right. Yeah. Like that's another chicken and egg problem, right? And the way it works, correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't dealt with it, but you have to put in your orders like far in advance of the actual release. So it's hard to actually know what the actual demand of that product is going to be, when it's going to be a hit or a fail, or
you have no idea what you're ordering. You just have to kind of blindly order and go, well, I'm going to do good on the good ones, and hopefully I lose less on the bad ones. At the volumes that we do with Yu-Gi-Oh, it's a probably 8 to 10% of our overall revenue. So if it stinks, it's not putting us out of business, right?
How do you handle
Yu-Gi-Oh's
that for other games though? Like, something that's a lot bigger percentage of your business. If it's, say leaned into Spider-Man or something like that, like a lot of places did. Assuming it was going to be a big hit.
Yeah, so we're at the point as a store where we're essentially with Magic, we're buying everything we're allowed to buy. We're buying everything we're able to buy. And so that's kind of self-limiting, right? Spider-Man hurt. We lost 10 figures on Spider-Man that's still sitting in the back that nobody wants, right?
10 figures?
Or sorry, 10, no, 5 figures, 10 grand. Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
There we go. Yeah.
Like, whoa, wait a minute.
Words. Knock on wood, we've been good so far. We've actively started diversifying because Magic for fiscal year 24, Magic sealed was like 60% of our overall revenue.
Okay.
It was a huge piece of it. And when we started getting into the more of the Universes Beyond and the 7 sets a year and all of this, we went, okay, this is dangerous, right? The community reaction to this is very mixed. Spider-Man happened and that hurt. And so we've started diversifying away. We're going to a lot more independent stuff. There's a couple Magic artists that have been out that have done really cool playmats and tokens and stuff on their own. So we brought a lot of that stuff in.
That's cool.
Andrew Thompson, Andrew Art, he's been phenomenal to work with. Super cool guy. We've got a couple local artists here in Bend that are starting to get into doing like Magic altars. Yeah. So we've been leaning into that and having the ability to have some of that in the case for sale. Just lots of different little pieces that are never going to be 10% of our revenue, but are collectively starting to move that dial back so that we're not so reliant on Hasbro.
Absolutely. That's a big important thing, right? Because
Yeah.
if Hasbro has a hard time, then it's best to have a lot of other things to kind of smooth out the troughs,
Correct.
peaks, right? So,
Correct. Yeah, and we're 3.5 years in now, so I think we're kind of out of that growth phase. The first couple years, it's like let's get all the revenue we can, let's build it, let's get it as big as we can get it, and then once you've got the size and the volume, now you go through and you kind of start moving those individual dials and going, okay, let's focus a little less on this or a little more on this, and so that's kind of the phase of business that we're in now. Our annual revenue is at a point that sustains us, that we're comfortable with, that sustains the staff size, and I think is probably towards the top end of realistic for our market size.
I got you.
So now it's a
They grow with that, like, so yeah. But if you were to, you're obviously trying to like smooth it out and make and shore up the business now to make sure that it not survives, like it's not threatened, but that it has longevity, right? Uh,
correct.
but if you were to try and move that into growth, what realistically would you think that would have to look like? That be
So
sales or adding new product lines or
I think our next one would be leaning heavier into events. We do really well. I'll use the Magic RCQs as an example, right? We've grown those to the point locally here where now our RCQs award travel. Cool. You come out and you play. We got the 3 coming up this summer. You come out and you play Modern. We're a WPM premium store, so we get to give away 2 invites. But then whoever's the first place, whoever's the bigger winner, gets their plane ticket paid for to go to LA and play too.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And that has helped us really grow these to the point where those events now we're actually hiring judge staff to come in and run those because we've got the size and the revenue off of them to do that. So I think that is going to kind of be our next growth point once we get some things smoothed out and get some product mix where we're a little more secure in it. I don't know.
You grow that kind of stuff. You said that your event space is already at like 80% full every day almost.
Yeah, we have plans. We're working with the mall that we're in to add another 1,400 square feet, which will help us grow our event space, and we'll have actually 2 separate event spaces.
So you can 2 simultaneously, or more even. You can split it up more. Yeah.
Correct.
Cool.
Like right now, Sundays are our big commander day, right? So we really don't ever plan anything on Sundays because we open at 11 a.m. and by 11:15, 44 or 48 seats have commander players sitting in and playing cards. And it holds consistently through most of the day, which is great. There's bodies in the store. We've always operated on if you put butts in seats, they'll buy something.
Right.
It's better to have somebody sitting in that seat.
You're just buying a bag of chips or a soda or something, right?
Yeah, we're paying rent and utilities on that chair, whether somebody's sitting in it or not. So why would we not want somebody sitting in it who is potentially going to bring something back in for the cost of that seat?
Right.
And the theory's done well for us, right? That's why we don't charge for table space. That's why we do a lot of free events. But our next evolution is going to be getting into more competitive scene stuff where we can do, with the additional seating, we'll be at the point where we're big enough to qualify to potentially host a Yu-Gi-Oh! I forget what they call them. It's not the regional, but it's the in-between. It's the next level up of Yu-Gi-Oh! I think you gotta, I don't.
We have change the name and how often they happen, every 6 months anyway.
Of course. But, moving into more stuff like that, that's going to get us, more visibility as a larger store, I think is very key to our next step of growth.
Do y'all do anything with miniatures? I just popped in my head. No, because
No.
Bandai, I was thinking about Bandai. They've got a new Gundam miniatures game coming out, which looks really cool. Might be a fun thing
So
to put people on if you've got more space, right?
we started out with Warhammer. The problem that we ran into with our business model of Warhammer is the step-in point is so high. If somebody comes in and they've never touched a Magic card and they're interested in Magic,
Right.
we have staff and product and capability to sit down and be like, here, you can play Magic tonight. Warhammer to me, and this is, I'm sure people will disagree with me. This is a very personal opinion, but the stepping point is so hard.
Behind the cardboard hot take.
From the time you purchase your first item for a game until the time you are actually playing the game, you know, if we're measuring that in days or weeks and not hours, that's not something that we desire to focus on in our business model. There are absolutely business models for it. You know, there's another shop here in town that thrives on Warhammer. They have an amazing community. They do really great with it. It's not where we want to be. We want to grow and build and create new community, and it's much easier to do that in a, oh yeah, you're interested in playing Pokemon? Yeah, cool. Here's the Battle Academy. This thing's $15. If you want, we've got one open here. You guys can sit down and play it and try it and see what you think. And if you like, take this home. That's the way that our model does well with that. So miniatures are never really on the horizon.
All right, well, just one last thing. Just is there any tool or process or thing that you wish existed that doesn't, that you know about right now, that would help you with any aspect of your business at all? I know it's kind of a question, but
just more stable and intelligent automation is always what we're looking for, right? The between the Roca and the CardBot, we've got a lot of our incoming scanning and stuff automated, but then some of the transition points there, going from there into SortSwift sometimes is a half-hour process because we've got to convert sheets over.
Right.
The Roca is consistently inconsistent.
Really?
I've not used we'll run a
so I don't have experience with the interface or anything.
Its margin of error is acceptable, right? We get about a 3% rate of incorrect scans. But when you're scanning 1,000 cards, that's 25 or 30 cards. So if we have it's famously bad with whiteboard or magic cards. They're difficult to tell some days by hand, right? If you're not someone who does that for a living and looks at those every day, they can be difficult. So we still have manual aspects on a lot of that. In my dream world, the hope would be that the card recognition grows to the point where we can eliminate that. Our automation definitely saves us 80% of the work, but then it creates another 10% that we have to go back and double check all of our automations. When we go through and pull orders, if we're pulling orders off of Shopify, you have one guy pulling orders off Shopify, one guy pulling orders off CardTrader, and they're both looking for the same card. Okay, crap, what went wrong? Well, now we have to go back to where that order was and audit that card and go, okay, where did it sell first? Is this a double sale? Did we put an extra one of these in inventory? Where did the screw up come so that we can go back and isolate the problem and make sure that it's not something that's going to continue occurring? And the time investment in that is large.
And it feels really bad, right? Even though it's a big time investment, it's a significantly less time investment than doing it all by hand without the automation tools and getting it perfect.
Of course.
Right? So,
of course, but it doesn't make it feel any better.
But it feels really bad when you've got it looks like, I'm sorry, we can't sell you this Black Knight because from you the customer's perspective, it just looks like we can't find anything with both hands. Right.
Yeah. And we've gotten some bad. We had we put a buy list or a load of cards in one time, and our auto pricer, a lot of them were HPMP damage stuff. And because of how the market pricing fluctuates on the more expensive cards, you said with the Guy's Cradle, right? There's such a small difference between LP and HP. So what it ended up happening is we'd put 4 Sarah's Sanctums up, and those are on the rise. Those are, $400 cards dang near now. But the data that we were getting from TCG, processing through our algorithm, put them at like $220. There looks like they're about $350 at damaged, over $400 as soon as you hit mod played, and ours were mod played. But near mint market price right now, TCG players feeding out $380 is a near mint market price. So our system went, well, if $380 is near mint, these are mod plays, so we take 30% off of that, and it listed them at like $200 and some when they should have been a $400 card.
Right.
Of course, somebody on the internet found that and bought one.
Of course. Yeah.
And so I would immediately, within 3 minutes of the order coming through, because we were going through and manually correcting prices as this order came through, We went through and refunded the order and sent them an email and went, hey man, our system listed something screwy. Sorry, here's your money back. Here's $10 in store credit for your next purchase. Feel free to poke around, see if you find something else you like. And so, of course, that he found us on Google and left us a scathing 1-star review. And due to we're scamming and we're screwing, and so ways to avoid those types of errors, I think, would be the biggest. And that just is all going to come down to tool customization and little fiddly bits. And at the end of the day, it may not be worth it, because to be able to take the time to set some of that automation up, we may have more time invested in that than we're ever gonna spend on the edge cases fixing them.
Would I don't know if you're using your past sales data at all in order to help with pricing, or if it's just purely off of TCG player pricing.
Yeah, we're doing the shotgun approach off of market and just hey,
Because
cards with this, we'll buy it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've been trying to figure out a way to use just my own historic in-store sales data to price like how I would purchase things, right? Because like when reverse hollows will sell on eBay for $3 a piece, right? And even though the market price on TCG Player is 25 cents, right? So like I can pay $1 for it and still make a decent profit margin if that's something that I needed to do, right? If I bought 10 of these Mews and from just the basic Mew hollow from like 151 or something like that, right? And I listed on eBay and it sells one copy a day at $3 a piece until I run out of them.
Perfect.
I'll need to price it like it's 50 cents or 25 cents, right? And then work off of that for a buy price.
And that's the problem, right? Is there again, we're looking at hundreds of thousands of different printings of different cards of, trying to put something together that follows trends on all of that is nightmarish.
Especially if you're just trying to do it on your own, right?
Yeah. So we tend to always look at something and go, hey, can we improve this process this way? Yes, we can improve this process to save us 3 minutes every time we do this, right?
Yeah.
Cool. What is that worth?
Toyota,
what is it going to
Kaizen kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we also have to look at what is the cost of improving that process. How much time are we putting into writing the particular script that's going to do that, or paying a vendor to provide a software that's going to do that, and troubleshooting it, and all of those pieces that go from, what does it cost to go from where we're at to, hey, here's this process improvement and it works every time.
Yeah. A lot of people can see that play out if they're thinking about purchasing a piece of hardware, right? A new shelf system costs $800. How much time will it save me before I make that $800 back, right? But not a lot of people see that in the time spent to sit down and modify the way you alphabetize your cards versus just getting on with it, right?
The biggest thing I see talking to other store owners or other online sellers is everybody forgets that their time has a value to it. And we see that acutely because we're paying people to do that. We have employees, right? But I see a lot of smaller shops or 1 or 2 man shows selling online, and they're like, yeah, this week I've really been working on optimizing this process. Okay, cool. So you put 40 hours of your time into optimizing a process that's going to save you $1 a week.
Right.
That's not a great ROI.
Now, the time value is different depending on the business. Every business is different, right? So like running a brick and mortar store with employees in Bend is different from, I don't know, an online seller in Tucson, right? that doesn't have
absolutely,
but that's still
absolutely
still a value. Every minute has value.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and you still so many people don't look at that math, right? They're like, oh, it's just my time. It's not worth anything. Well, but what else could you be doing with your time that would be more productive, that would make you more money at the end of the day?
Did you have any advice for other people, other sellers, other business owners that might be looking to get to where you are or anything like that?
The biggest thing that I try to get across to people that I talk to is these are social games. Realize there is a human component to this business and don't ignore it. if I would be nowhere near as successful as a business if it was just me in this store staring at cardboard. It's the bodies in the store, it's the community that comes out to support and the community that comes out to play that makes it all function. Um, and whether that's putting effort into having a nice play space, whether that's putting effort into having a variety of product on the shelf, whether that's putting effort into having organized play nights for different things. That is the stuff that builds and holds the community, and that community is what will keep you afloat in the bad times.
Absolutely.
Because there will be bad times, there will be bad sets.
But there's still people who want to come play Commander or or whatever, right?
Yep.
Well, thank you so much.
Don't ignore that community.
Yeah, don't ignore the community. That's a good parting line. Yeah. Thanks so much for talking with me, Steve.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Chase.
Yeah.
Take care, buddy.
You too.